Company, I'm sorry, to pay to Hartford their deductions for the month. The next one, notice the number, it's a 600 account, 652. So that either has to be food service or it has to be the after-school program. In this case, this is the after-school program. And the after-school program has purchased some technical and other software items for after-school use, no tax dollars. The next one, All-American College. This is a 100 account beginning with 1, so those are tax dollars. And that was a purchase that was made by operations and maintenance regarding one of our schools, in this case, in terms of maintenance. I don't think we've got enough time for me to go through all of them, but you can begin to see the pattern. Here again, this is another maintenance item. This is, I do want to talk about this one. You notice it's 100, 221, 332, and it says travel conference curriculum. Now what I would tell you is that if you look at the editorials that show up in this paper, they'll tell you somebody went on a conference somewhere. And they don't know where, but they think somebody went out of town somewhere. Well, it just so happens that we have people that travel within the district. We have people that need to go from school to school to do their work, and it's called in-district travel, and it comes out of the account 332 travel conference. This is curriculum. This is, the location is 12. We know that that is in the instructional department, and so I would venture to say when we pull that, it's probably for coordinators who go from one school to another to do their work that they are required to do for the district, and at the end of the month, they have a legal right to be reimbursed for the cost of the mileage to travel between schools, and in this case, that's the reimbursement. No travel to a conference, that's in-district travel. Then you see another 100 for some more supplies here, and then you see a 700 account and a 700 account. Those are activity accounts, no tax dollars involved in that at all. So you begin to get the feel then, I hope, for the kinds of expenditures that occur in the check register. Now let's go to the accounts that are procurement card accounts, purchasing accounts. These are what the editorials would call credit cards. We call them purchasing cards, and they have a limit on them. The purchasing card is limited to small incidental purchases that are best handled in that way to reduce the amount of paperwork involving purchase orders and all of the data supporting purchase orders, and they are very stringently controlled. A purchasing card will only purchase something up to $1,000. It will not purchase more than that. If a purchasing card is going to be used for anything over $1,000, then the person using that card, or the person responsible for that card, has to call my office. They have to get permission from the CFO in order to make that purchase, and I have to make arrangements with our carrier for those cards to make a purchase in excess of $1,000. And once I do that and clear it, then that card can be used at one time for that purchase. So unless that process occurs, if you see in this register anything over $1,000, then you know that the person who used that card had to first of all get it from their administrator. The administrator had to request an exception if it were over $1,000. It had to be approved by me. The purchase is made. Then the receipt has to be carried back to the administrator. All of that is sent to the purchasing officer at the end of the month for payment. The purchasing department goes through every expenditure to make sure that it meets all of our procurement law, state procurement requirements, and that they're all appropriate. Then it goes to fiscal services for payment, and it's reviewed again to make sure it's an appropriate payment and charged to the appropriate account. So the thing gets 3 reviews before it's ever paid. All right, let's look at one of those. Let's go through and look at a couple of them. You see one up here, let's pick one out that we can easily see. Here's, if we go to the top of the page up here, you see one. This is a 100 account. It's a maintenance item that was used, purchased with the purchasing card, advanced door systems, and in this case I can't see the end number, but I'm sure it was for one of the schools, and if we could see the end number we could probably tell that. Same thing again, 100 account, same thing, you get the idea. Now look at this one, here's a 600 account, Best Buy. That's for one of our after-school programs, and there are no tax dollars involved there. I'm sure we can look it up and know exactly what it is, and I'm sure it's appropriate, but regardless, it involves no tax dollars. Let's go down to another one, Barnes & Nobles. Here's one, 100. Well, we know what Barnes & Nobles is. That would be books, book-like things. Let's pick out another one. Oh, here's a good one right here. Airtran Air. And Heritage Ed Festivals, LLC. Can you imagine what they do with those in an editorial? They've already done them in editorials. Go look at the paper and you'll see it. Let me tell you what this is. First of all, it's coming out of a 700 account, which means it's pupil activity, so no tax dollars involved. And I just happen to know what that one is because I had to approve that purchase right there for $1,250 on the procurement card, and that happens to be a Dutch Fork High School dance team that was invited to perform at the playoffs in New Orleans. I think it's during the Christmas break, isn't it? I'm not sure exactly when it is, but anyway, they were invited to perform there, and this represents their money, making arrangements for them to go, and the best way to make that kind of purchase is with a purchasing card. So I gave them approval to do it, and there's no tax dollars involved in it. And then we can go down and we can see the rest of it. But I'm not going to take a lot of your time to go through that, but what I do want to say is that there was a letter to the editor. I'm going to talk with y'all a lot. I want to talk with you just a minute about this. There's a letter to the editor that came out in the Chapin newspaper, part 1, and then there's a letter to the editor that came out in the Irmo paper that follows up. Now, let me just go through a few of these things. First of all, the gentleman that writes the letter to the editor in the Chapin paper, down at the bottom, he says that if, where does he write it? He says, I'm going to read it. It says, it's your turn, Mr. Hefner, and please don't give us those gratuitous statements. It's for the children. We just want to see the documentation. I'll be the first one to write an apology if all of these charges are justified. I want an apology. I want to see it show up in the paper, and I want an apology. Because every single one is justified. Now let's go to an open letter that recently appeared in the New Irmo News. And it talks about these expenditures. And let me say this, the gentleman that wrote these, if he were sitting in this room tonight, I wouldn't know who he was. Because I don't know it. And the gentleman has never called me. and has never asked me about any of these purchases. He does refer to one gentleman who happens to be here, Mr. Ed Yates. And he suggests that you get the information from Mr. Ed Yates. So Mr. Yates knows more about this than I do. Now, what does he say? He says, we made a purchase for custom mink for $858, and then in parentheses, why? Look that way. I looked it up. It's to custom ink. Custom ink. Custom ink does screen printings for t-shirts. And we had a school with non-tax dollars that had some custom t-shirts printed. Here's another one to ABSO International. ABSO, I guess you'd call that maybe? Well, that's really wrong. It should be ASBO. It should be ASBO. And ASBO represents a professional organization for school business officials that we pay a fee to annually to take our comprehensive annual financial report and evaluate it with a national group of folks to make sure that we are publicly reporting to you in the correct way, in the most accurate way that we can possibly report. And we pay a fee each year for that, and I think it's well worth what we pay the fee for. Then there's another one to Monkey Joe's of Lexington for $968, in parentheses, indoor inflatable fun park. Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. That's a fact. The problem is, his implication is false. No tax dollars were spent there. That's an after-school program, and they did go there as a part of the after-school program, and the parents who chose to put their children in that program paid for it. And if they didn't want their children to go there, they wouldn't pay for it. We can go to another one. This one's a good one too. The black tie, $128, in parentheses. Formal wear, question marks. Absolutely it's formal wear. That was a purchase by the Chapin High School course for a presentation that they were going to do, and they needed black bow ties to wear as a part of their apparel for the program. And then here's another one, Walk for Life, $270, in parentheses, charity. Absolutely charity, true statement, false accusation. Our children raised money for charity and gave it to charity. No tax dollars involved. And don't we teach our children to do those kinds of things? Isn't that good instruction to do that? I'm sorry, y'all. I've said enough. Thank you, Mr. Chair.